I'm Brian Morris. I'm from the Auburn Chess Club, and I really recently played in the Bay Area Chess Spring Open in Santa Clara at the Convention Center. This was a game, my final game of the weekend. I was winning handily. I was about +5, and this is my friend Robert Chenault. He's an expert. I really dropped the ball on this game, and so he's going to help me understand what I needed to be thinking back in the day. Right now, to set the situation, I was having a bad tournament, so I played kind of fast, but lo and behold, I come out on move, we're on move 23. I'm 3 pawns ahead and an exchange. The computer says I'm about +5. So this is the classic one game. But one games are hard to win.
Got that right. because when the person starts losing, they start scrapping.
Yeah. He's got nothing to lose, so he's going to throw everything in the kitchen sink. And I think he had over an hour of time while I had about 6 minutes. And that was weighing on me because I thought, I know when I move fast, I generally don't play well. But this is a position that I think I should have been able to figure out, or at least had some ideas.
If you look at White's last move, rook on E1 to A1, that's a very terrible move. He's taken the rook out of play. The rook was active. He sends the rook back to bed to guard a pawn that the bishop is already guarding. You see what I'm saying?
Right. To me, it seems like rook to D1. If you're going to move the rook,
for sure,
D1 was possibly better. You're on an open file.
But if you want to get the rook out the game and just make the position worse, you play a move like rook to A1 so that the rook is just simply out the game. Right. Well, anyway, go ahead, Brian.
Okay, so what I played was queen to B2. It's not the worst move, but it's not the best move, that's for sure. So let's back up a second and think what's good here.
Right, well, we can start by looking at what White's threats are. White has 2 attackers on E7. The knight is hitting E7 and the queen is hitting E7. Black has 2 defenders. This check is critical because you're 3 pawns up. He could start grabbing pawns and come back on you. And also, out of nowhere, whip up an attack against the king. He's got a queen over there, bishop, 2 bishops hitting over here. So this is a blunder moving the queen off of the E7 pawn.
Yeah.
It's easy. Bring the rook in. Remember you said bring the rook to D1 as white?
Right.
Bring in the black rook. That's on AA.
And so let's look at that a little bit. The machine indeed likes rook A to D8. The rook on A8 isn't doing anything, really. And so let's reinforce the center, attack the knight. Granted, he's guarded by a bishop, but black's getting more active, more interesting.
And it's too much to let the rook, black's rook, get open in white's airy position. You see how airy this position is? Loose pieces everywhere. You see what I'm saying? Nothing guarded, nothing. The rook is loose.
Right.
You know, so, you hit him with a remove the defender tactic, everything falls.
Right. And based on what you just said, the machine likes rook to D1.
Try to shore it up.
Yeah, he cannot let black develop, grab space, grab files without some resistance. Black's still holding on to almost a 5-pawn advantage here.
5 pawns.
Now it likes queen to B2, but again, the queen, back here it's hard to see where the queen might go.
Right.
All the squares are covered, and
when you play queen to B2, you're putting the queen into play, and the queen begins to have options. And now white has to look at all these different options, and it's taxing. Queen can go here, the queen can go to, E5, and the queen is on the checking square. Over here, the queen doesn't have as many options. Put the queen into play. Right.
So I do that. There's all kinds of interesting squares that the queen might go to. The computer likes this for white. Remember, white's already losing, clearly losing. So I don't know. Maybe this is the best he's got. Knight takes. It was in check, so he had to do something. He takes. And now black's advantage is now a little over 5 pawns. These were all deep Fritz moves.
Deep Fritz.
Yeah, deep Fritz 13.
Called him Deep Fritz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is the computer like for black? Get closer to the king, attacking the loose bishop. White has to do something.
Yes. White is in trouble with that move.
Okay, so we know that's a good line, and that's not what I played. I avoided I avoided rook a to d8. I went right to queen to b2. I think I was thinking, well, I can develop my queen with a tempo because the rook's hanging.
Yeah. Well, not all hope is lost just because you played that one move. Now he brings the rook into the game.
Right.
White is starting to get what we call piece coordination, where all the pieces are starting to work hand in hand.
Yeah, and if you look at it, white's pieces are all directed against the black king.
Yes, there is an attack.
They're all close by. It's not hard to imagine. Maybe the bishop goes to h6, things like that.
So black
become
needs
a
to
problem.
start to become a little defensive-minded. Instead of trying to attack or win a pawn, he should start to think about king safety.
Right. So at this point, again, the computer likes moving the rook into play. Rook a, e8.
Yeah.
Now the pawn is
Protected.
protected for the time being. But I can tell you that as black, even though I knew I was winning this game,
Is that what you played?
no.
Oh.
This is a computer game move. But I was sweating bullets because this is one of those games where you're way ahead of material. I was about +5 in material, but I knew I could easily lose this game. There was just too many threats.
Yeah. He has compensation in the form of an attack against the black king. He's
Yeah.
down a ton of pawns,
Right.
but he's starting to get piece coordination and if you
Right.
guys want to jump in, go ahead.
Yeah, because like white's setting up.
Yeah, White's setting up. He
So-
said that
Yeah, voted.
Bowden, he said, am I saying it wrong? Bowden?
No, the
Bowden said is White is setting up, and that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and I think that the reason I played queen to b2 and then I played this is my move, is I'm trying to get my queen into the game, diffuse this attack. So for instance, I'm thinking queen to h5. Yes, it destroys my pawns, but if I can get the queens off the board, it feels a lot safer. That's my idea. You can take it or leave it.
Well,
And I'm still +4 at this point, according
you know
to...
that black has a nestle move, like bishop h6.
Yes.
Something is going to sit in that hole.
Right,
Something is going to fill it, and it's going to be the queen or the bishop.
right. So it creates a little bit of a threat, and I go with my plan. But again, I'm losing my advantage.
Knight takes e7, perhaps? Ooh.
And this is what he did. I think he realized that trading queens was probably giving up the game because he's too far behind. And so he goes to f2. And we're still about a 5-pawn difference. Finally, I start to get, I probably should have brought the A rook. I think the machine likes the A rook.
Yeah.
I think I have the right idea, but the wrong rook.
Wrong rook.
For one thing, this rook here is defending the king position.
Yeah.
He's reinforcing it.
That's right.
Yeah, whereas the rook on A,
Just still in
there's
bed.
no, well,
Right.
there's not really a threat because if the bishop takes A, of course the knight takes the bishop. So while my bishop's on C6, there's really no threat that I see. It just seems like get that dormant rook guarding a pawn, That's
Is that
not
what he
that's,
was doing? He was guarding that pawn?
Yeah, I think
Oh.
that's ill use of a rook, you know?
Right.
So he goes back to rook to f1.
Hitting the weakness on F7.
Yeah,
Go
and-
figure.
And I realized I really only had one good move. So I went back to f8.
That's a humble move. A
Yeah.
lot of people won't do it.
Yeah.
And
but-
that's what you're supposed to do. You go, oops, my bad, and just bring the rook back.
Exactly. So, and that's what I felt like. I'm not embarrassed to say that, okay,
Yeah.
I made a ill-conceived move. Okay, so I'm trying to get pieces off the board. That seems like a reasonable
Fair enough.
strategy.
Yes.
Guarding the pawn somewhat, although the pawn wasn't attacked at the moment. And it takes the bishop off. Takes the three-piece attack on f7.
With the pawn to e6, black has a dark square bishop, and if you look around black's king, there's dark square weaknesses. A lot of times people don't know what we're talking about. Just look at the dark squares.
Yes.
Infiltration.
And his bishop is a dark square bishop.
Exactly, and he's got the white bishop. So whenever you're dealing with the two bishops, you got to keep a good solid pawn structure, or we call it Swiss cheese holes. You
Yeah.
see that hole on f6?
Right.
And if the queen ever moves off of the h file, the queen or the bishop is going to hit you on h6.
Right,
There's
right.
just too many, and you could just use the threats to set up tactics.
Right.
When you get so many threats, you start looking like Bobby Fischer.
Right. Yep.
Go ahead.
So he actually makes a pretty interesting and good move. Bishop c1. I'm not sure I would have seen that move. It's not hard to imagine where he might put it.
Right. Trying to take advantage of those dark squares from a distance.
Right. Once again, I'm trying to get the queens off the board. And he refuses. And that's actually the best move. The machine likes that move. And I think he's doing the right thing. And it really does pay off. So now he has to trade queens.
No, he doesn't. He could play bishop,
Oh, that's right. He played bishop. That's right. What am I saying?
bishop e3.
Yeah. And so I come back. He goes there.
Ooh, he's starting to attack on the dark
And
squares.
now he has to trade.
Ooh, does he? The rook can play rook to f4 if he. Oh, it's a check. That's check. Now
And he
has to
can't just
trade.
throw the bishop in the way.
Yeah,
I'm 6 pawns ahead now.
good point.
So he takes, I take. I'm hitting the bishop. The bishop, he's got the dual bishops, by the way. I'm a little over 6 pawns ahead. Things start to kind of, I'll say, decompose at this point.
Really?
I really
Black
did.
is doing extra well. You increased your advantage. When we first sat down, it was
Yeah.
like a 4-point advantage. Now we're
Yes.
heading to 7.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a blunder. You're dropping the knight.
Yes.
Okay, so go back one move.
Yeah. And this is where I started to make stupid moves. But here, as soon as I moved the king, I saw it too late.
You may be able to get away with it, believe it or not. After he takes one of the rooks, right, let's see what happens.
Yep.
Ooh, sookie.
So at this point, I think I'm just going to route. Still, I'm holding 5-pawn advantage, maybe 4, but I still have a clear advantage.
I would trade it.
But here I
That's what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
He's trying to trade. This is good. Black, I still think black has an easy and clear win.
and it's in here that I make another, and this is where it got complicated, and I'm down to about a minute of time. And I just could not solve this puzzle.
Rook to d5. What's wrong with rook to d5? I mean, king to d5.
Yeah, and that's what I did.
Okay.
You're probably rushed, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Well.
I started to feel like I was losing. I was losing my grip. And you can see in the score,
No, you're not losing. If you just look at the position, you're up the.
there's the game over here. But again, like I said, I was in a panic. I was playing fast.
Yeah,
My
you're
confidence
up,
was low.
If you just look at materially, you're up the exchange, and actually you
At this
have
point,
the
I'm
position.
still over.
You still weren't winning the game until you made that last point.
Right.
Yeah.
Because at any time you can sack your rook on the bishop, and your
Right.
king is in a perfect in-game position. His king is in a terrible
Right.
position. So you have it positionally, and you have it materially because you're up one bishop for the white rook, for the white bishop.
Right.
Excuse me. You're up in exchange.
Okay, so we know my move was terrible.
Yes.
What is your strategy at this point?
Check. Rook to d1 check. Further push the king
Away.
away. Play rook to a1 because you're preparing for the sack
Right.
on this pawn. The king and this rook is going to usher this one pawn home. The king is in the perfect position to usher him home.
Yeah.
The king can't help. This rook is going to try to stop this pawn. This will be a tough task even without a rook. If it was just this rook and this one king, this is a tough task
Yeah.
without the help of a rook. So basically, rook here check, king over.
Okay, so let's demonstrate for our viewers. So
There you
rook
go.
check. King has to retreat.
Or you can block, but I don't
Yeah,
suggest
that
it.
doesn't make. Well, I guess he could.
And then rook. Wow, there is a problem with rook to a1 immediately. Oh no, rook to a1.
Okay.
Now it's a little tough.
But you know what? Yeah. Okay. The machine likes this move.
And you can go rook to a6. And
Yeah.
I'm not looking at computer analysis. This is me free flowing.
Yeah. You have to ask yourself, how does he stop?
This exchange, right?
I guess he could do something. Is this insane or what?
So that's just simply a good move. Because you're losing the pawn.
Right.
So this may have been a mistake when you played here.
So it almost is starting to feel like a draw. Although he blocks the bishop.
I don't know about a draw.
Just move your
I
pawn
think,
up one. Oh, no,
yeah.
I don't know.
I think he should have just like stayed. 'Cause
It is kind of risky. I mean, he gets this with a check.
And then you just simply go down.
You simply move away,
Or
right?
you got to move
Oh,
the rook.
yeah, what am I?
Yeah,
The
maybe
better,
right there.
better move, yeah.
Black is still winning this game because of that rook versus the bishop.
Yeah.
It's just that powerful.
But this would not be an easy end. I'd feel
No.
better if I ended up in a draw with something like this.
Black blundered
Yeah.
with my quick analysis, so Black did not play the best.
Yeah.
But it's okay because Black is still winning.
Okay.
It's just that we played a blunder end game.
White waited for the right time.
I think we can end there.
Exactly.